Imagine standing in front of a mirror every day and staring at a stranger looking back. That isn't a horror movie scenario, it is the reality for millions of us right now. Whether you were recently laid off, went through a divorce, or faced a sudden health scare, something fundamental has shifted beneath your feet. You have been stripped of the titles and roles that defined who you thought you were: employee, spouse, parent, and suddenly, there is nothing left holding up the house of your identity. It feels like falling into a void where the ground used to be solid, is now just misty water. But here's the hard truth that most experts won't tell you: feeling this way doesn't mean you failed. It means you're undergoing a necessary evolution. And if we don't understand what happens inside our heads during this chaos, we might never find our footing again. Let me give you context so you know exactly why I'm talking to you. My guest today is Dr. Maya Shankar, a cognitive neuroscientist with a PhD from Oxford and a former senior advisor in the White House under President Obama. She wrote the New York Times bestseller The Other Side of Change, specifically tackling these exact kinds of profound disruptions. Yet, even with all that elite training and experience, Dr. Shankar admits something vulnerable: she still struggles intensely with discomfort. Knowing the science of change doesn't magically grant you inner peace overnight. If anything, understanding the mechanics makes the gap between where you are and where you want to be feel wider. So, how do we bridge that gap? Why should you care? Because the answer lies in realizing that your old definition of yourself was likely built on sand. Dr. Reb. Shankar illustrates this perfectly with her own history. From age 6 until adulthood, her identity was fused completely with the violin. She entered Juilliard straight out of elementary school, bypassed traditional auditions, and became a prodigy. Then came the crash landing. Around age 15, she hit a wall of denial and rebellion. She realized that losing her status wasn't just about missing practice sessions, it felt like a piece of her soul had died. That grief didn't come from stopping play, it came from the realization that her entire sense of worth was tied to a performance metric. Now, think about your own life. Are you currently living in that same trap? Maybe your job title defines your masculinity or femininity. Maybe your relationship status defines your completeness. When those things crumble, everything collapses with them. This brings us to a massive misconception called effective forecasting. Our brains are terrible liars about the future. We predict that a bad event will ruin our lives forever, or conversely, that a good thing will make us eternally happy. Science proves otherwise. Humans possess a baseline emotional setpoint. Yes, you will suffer acutely right now. Yes, the pain will feel infinite. But biologically and psychologically, you are wired to return to equilibrium. The problem is, we forget that the person returning to that balance will look different than the person suffering today. The Dr. Maya Shankar of 5 years ago would be terrified of public speaking. The Dr. Maya Shankar emerging from this crisis will view it differently. Stop asking, "Will I survive?" and start asking, "Who am I going to become?" But wait, there's a catch. Many of us fall victim to identity foreclosure, locking ourselves into a single narrative too early without ever testing alternatives. Dr. Shankar calls upon the concept of possible selves, the hopeful futures we dream of, the feared futures that haunt us, and the realistic probabilities we ignore. When life forces a door shut, panic sets in because we refuse to see the windows opening elsewhere. Consider the athlete whose career ends abruptly, or the star student who fails an exam. They lose the badge, but they haven't lost the grit, the discipline, or the courage required to earn it. Those traits remain dormant, waiting to be applied to a new canvas. The moment you accept that removing a title removes its attached prestige, you break free from the spiral of obsessive analysis trying to fix a broken image. So, how do you actually move forward when your brain screams for certainty? First, use mental time travel. Step out of your first-person nightmare and project yourself 10 years ahead. Look down on your current struggle from a bird's eye view at Yahweh. Does this catastrophic failure really matter then? Probably not. Second, try changing your internal language. When you hear that voice saying, "I need to get my act together," pause. Say your actual name instead. Maya. Let's figure this out. Creating that slight psychological distance stops the shame cycle and starts the coaching mode. Remember, you aren't fighting alone. Humanity has navigated these storms since the beginning. Finally, embrace the weirdness of doing small things while feeling big fears. Distraction isn't avoidance if it buys you space to breathe. Reading fiction acts as an identity lab, letting you test new behaviors safely. More importantly, lean into curiosity. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire, is activated by novelty and challenge. Every mistake, every stumble, releases chemicals that help you adjust and grow. Don't aim for giant leaps, take microscopic steps. A tiny action builds momentum faster than grand planning ever could. Trust that you are capable of evolving into someone stronger than you ever imagined. Your identity is not a statue carved in stone, it is clay that gets reshaped by fire. Use this disruption not as a sign of defeat, but as the catalyst for your greatest reinvention. Keep curious, keep moving, and trust the person you are becoming. Thanks for hanging out. Stay safe, and remember, you've got this. See you in the next episode. Check out Profile for podcast summaries.